And away we go. Should chime in.
Your conference is being recorded.
All right. Well, welcome. Thank you for joining me today as we go over using the job assessment in the hiring process. As we go along, feel free to ask any questions, anything that comes up for you, and we'll definitely have some questions at the end. I will ask that any questions that would be sensitive that you won't want recorded and put out on our website to wait till the end. I stop recording for the last 5 minutes so that people can talk about things that they don't want out in the world. But feel free if there's anything that's unclear as we go along to let me know.
Thank you.
All right. So I think we can all agree, or most of us can agree, that a lot of business problems boil down to the people problems, right? So that getting the hire right is the right thing to do. Getting that, hiring someone from the start can really mitigate a lot of those problems. But the hiring process often can go off the rails before we've even talked to the first candidate. It can sometimes go off the rails as you're beginning to set up what it is that we're looking for. We work with a lot of clients who come to us for help with job descriptions even. If they find that they're not attracting the right candidate and they can't figure out why, and we'll work with them on their job description or their job ad to say, well, what you have out here isn't exactly what you're looking for in your job assessment. So that's some of the mystery that we're going to unfold and unpack today. So we're going to look at a lot is, great hiring starts with a clear vision, right? So we're trying to give you the tools here today, or giving you the tools here today to really create a clear vision of the job that you're hiring for and the person that you want to fill it. So we've got a bunch of tools today that will create your bulletproof system for building better jobs and making better hires. So away we go. This is one of my favorite slides. I put it in all of my presentations about hiring and hiring people. For every job, there is the right person, and for every person, there is the right job. Job alignment is a very important thing, and it ranks high on employee satisfaction and employee engagement. So someone who's empathetic, fast-paced, and direct isn't going to be right for a job that has been created for a quiet, patient, calm person, and vice versa. So that's why it's important to really think about what's our company culture, what is the job requirement, who is it that we're trying to hire. So we're going to talk today a lot about the DASH method. DASH stands for define, attract, select, and hire. This is actually a tool or a resource that you have out on Catalyst. It's I think a 5-page document that brings you all the way through from the beginning of defining into attracting, selecting, and finally hiring and bringing on board. So when we're looking at define today, we're going to talk about defining the job and defining the candidate. Some tools that go along with that are the job description worksheet, which is inside this DASH hiring method document, as well as the job assessment, which we went over in the last webinar. So you guys can head to our website and check that out, or you can always utilize the resources here at the Cornerstone Group to help you with those. Then we move on to attract. So once you've defined it, now you want to attract the right person, right? So that's the job ad and the job description. Some tools that we have for that are the attracting worksheet, which again is in this DASH method document, and then another document of how to attract suggestions, and we're going to talk about that today in a later slide. Then we move into the selection portion, which is really, we tend to jump right to that. There's a lot of companies that kind of jump right into, let's just quick write something, get a job ad out there, and let's start seeing some people. Let's get people in the door. So this is where the resumes come in, the screening, the phone interviewing. The tools that we have to support inside of this not only are the 2 steps before it, which actually really take a lot of time and stress out of that selection process, but we have the interview guide, we have a hiring scorecard, which we're going to look at today, which is in this DASH document, and then a STAR behavioral interviewing method, which is another document available out on Catalyst, and we're going to look at what that looks like today. And then finally, the hiring portion is actually the final select, who we've selected, the offering, and then the onboarding. Because onboarding a person actually can really set them up for success. You've done all this work to find the right person. You've taken your time. You've waited for the right person to come along. So onboarding them properly for who they are behaviorally can be an added measure to take in their long-term success with your company. So we have an onboarding worksheet, and then as always, we really support the idea of doing readbacks of their pattern for both them and their managers within a short period of time once they've become onboarded. So we're going to be covering, again, that DASH method for the day. Okay. So for those of you who have done any kind of training with us, I'm sure you recognize this guy. This is our head, heart, and briefcase man. When you're hiring a person, you're obviously hiring the whole person. And while we love predictive index tools, we also understand they should never be used alone as a selection tool. This is just one little sliver of the pie when you're looking at a whole person. So the head are the drives and the cognitive, right? The behavioral drives and cognitive ability. And those are the assessments that we have to give to people. And some of you may have the cognitive and some of you may not. Those are stable over time. They're unchanging. So when a candidate takes that, we know that's who they are. As you know, from their mid-20s, they're cooked. Then we have resumes and interview, which change over time, right? Our knowledge, our skills, our experience, we're always expanding upon that. We can gain self-awareness to adapt. Any of you that know about the self to the self concept in the PI graph, that's where we get our adaptations. We grow, we have skills. And then the heart, which we get to in the interview process, is really about finding the values and interest of who you are. Jetin, I'm sorry, I'm going to stop for a minute. Jetin, I'm getting, again, that you can't hear me. I'm not sure if you're using, again, the old number. The number for today is 866-567-2983 with a code of 7021-2776. Hopefully that's going to help. Okay. So again, this whole person here shows up at work. Actually, I just realized he can't hear me. With the head, the heart, and the briefcase. Your chances of hiring the right person when you look at all of those increases dramatically. All right. So what do we do in this process? We, in the last session, learned about creating the job assessment, which we affectionately call the JA. And for those of you who have been around a while with us for PI, I think everyone uses the PI for the behavioral assessment. It's actually the BA now. We just love to keep you guys on your toes with updating everything. So first we create that job assessment, then we create the job ad. Then once the candidates start coming in, administer the behavioral assessment to the candidates and link the candidate to the job assessment for reporting and review. We're going to look at how to do that as we move along. All right. So just a quick review of the job assessment from last month. When doing the job assessment, what you want to do is define the job, get a clear understanding of what it takes to do it, get a job description, then you send that out to 3 to 5 stakeholders in your company for them to actually take the assessment. One of the things that you can do in there is have them review the job report, have that discussion. You can also add in some analytics of the high performers of that job already. And then you finalize the pattern. And when you finalize the pattern, you get what we see on the left here, which is the job report. That is going to be really key for a lot of the things that we're looking at today. What this does is, if you've seen a person's behavioral report, it's very similar to that. What this does is it puts it in plain language what that pattern means. What are the job characteristics? What's the summary? And this has some really great language in it that's going to appeal to someone who is built like that pattern. So as we talk about attracting especially, we're going to talk a lot about using the language that's in there. It's non-proprietary. You guys can copy and paste and take anything you want right as you go. All right. Let's get one more person with the code here. Oh, okay. So, attracting the candidates. We have a document out on Catalyst. This is a screenshot right from it. And what this does is it gives you some suggested phrases based on what the job pattern came out as. So someone with a high A and a low D, some suggested phrases that you might want to put into your job ad are be your own boss, grow a department, your success depends on you, right? Someone with that high A and that low D is going to be somewhat aggressive, challenging, venturesome. They're really going to like that. When they read those, they're going to light up and say, yes, this is me. I'm applying for this job. It's also really important to know that if your job doesn't require that, if it's not something that's going to be rewarded in that job, you want to stay away from those terms because a person built like that would be attracted to that and then be disappointed if the job is wrong. So really utilize that job report as well. So you can take some of the language from that. You can take some of the language from this how to attract candidates with the job ad from Catalyst. You can also utilize us here at the Cornerstone Group. We can help you put in some language that will appeal to the person once you've created that job assessment. All right. So now you've attracted, right? So you've created you've figured out what you want in your job. You've figured out what you want in that person. You've created the job assessment. You've written a really great, shiny, kind of attracting job description and job ad, and you're starting to get some resumes in. So you're sending those behavioral assessments, the BAs, to people. And as they're coming in, now it's time to go ahead and interview. So one of the tools that we have embedded in the software is the interview guide. And I think we went over this last week. And what this does is when you send an assessment to someone, you can connect them to that job assessment. So instantly, if you've been trained, you can see visually there. And even if you haven't been trained, you're going to get some interview questions surrounding each of those drives. The drives where the person aligns with the job get a check mark, and where there's some misalignment gets a question mark. So for this person in this position, the dominance, extroversion, and patience all align, but it still gives you some great questions to go ahead and dig in with. And then with the formality, that's where there's some misalignment. So this person, you might want to start there, dig in a little bit more about describing where they need to work within rules and procedures, how they have systems to do organized and detailed work, and so on and so forth. And again, you guys can always utilize us here to give you more questions, but this is a great start. Another tool, as I mentioned as we open today, is the STAR method of behavioral interviewing. This can be found out on Catalyst again, and these are screenshots from that document. So when you're preparing for the interviews, you're going to generate that interview guide that we just saw, as well as the job pattern and the behavioral pattern for the candidate. You can create any additional questions kind of using this method, the situation, task, action, and result. So situation task would be describe a specific situation or task you need to accomplish. Inside the action, what did the person do? And then with the result, explain. So an example here for a server position is tell me about a time when you had to deal with a difficult customer, right? So that's the situation. What steps did you personally take to manage the situation? That's the action. And how did that turn out? So it's these three-part questions. Then you can create the space to listen for what comes back, right? So what you're listening for is allowing the customer to talk, took initiative to give the customer additional food and drink, resulted in loyal customer. So this document brings you through step-by-step how to do that. So next step is coming back to that dash method. So now, again, we've defined who we want. We've attracted. We've created that attraction. We've done our interviewing. We've done some STAR method questioning. Now we're actually down to who is it that we want to hire. So we have a hiring scorecard. And just as an FYI, there is talk of this actually becoming available in the software for 2018, which is very exciting. There's no modeling for it yet, but Just wanted to give you guys a heads up that this is coming actually in the software at some point. But for now, we have paper versions of these for you guys to use. And again, we're going to come back to our head, heart, and briefcase man, right? So how close is the match between the candidate's behavioral pattern and the pattern for the position? Just one little sliver. Heart, how well did the candidate's values and interests fit with the company's culture? And then the briefcase, how close of a match is their knowledge, their skills, and their experience? And you can actually have this ranking system here to give them totaling and bring it back together. So especially, this is quite helpful if there is a team that's hiring. So each of you could fill out this scorecard and come back together to decide who might be the highest ranking person on each person's list. All right. So then you come back together, you've decided who it is that you want to hire, you've decided who it is that you're going to move forward with. We now have an onboarding process. So one of the really important things with onboarding for people is we tend to have an onboarding process.
1:45, but I'll be back. I'll be here when you
Hi, if you're not on mute, would you mind placing yourself on mute? Thank you. So most companies have an onboarding process that's sort of stamped for everybody, right? This is how we onboard everyone. Well, if you've done all this work to hire the right person, wouldn't it be great to actually onboard them in a way that's aligned with who they are as well? So we've come up with a sort of checklist here. And for those of you who have seen the manager scorecards, you'll kind of notice this looks very similar to those. So using their behavioral pattern, you're going to find out if they're task-focused or people-focused. If they're a task-focused person, you're going to provide them with an onboarding schedule before their first day. That person's really going to appreciate that you've taken the time, they can prepare for it, they know what's coming. If they're more of people-focused, you want to give them face time and a check-in with them fairly often as they onboard. So there's some really great ideas to do here, and all it depends on are those factor combinations. And again, this is available on Catalyst in that dash hiring method. So one thing that we have that just came out, it's actually not even available to everybody yet, but because you guys decided to join me today, you're going to get this today after the call. There's a new ebook that PI has put out called the Bulletproof System for Building Better Jobs. So everything that we've gone over, the dash method, the STAR method, using the interview guide, the hiring scorecard, the attraction worksheet, how to attract the right people, really getting clear on what it is that you want. This takes that to an even bigger level outside of just using the predictive index tools. It's going to walk you through a 5-phase system, starting with creating a first pass at job requirements. That's so in alignment with what we're talking about as far as defining, right? So, but sometimes you want to get in a little bit granular. Sometimes you want to keep it higher level. You're going to decide which one is better. But one of the things that you really want to do is make sure what are the things that we will actually be rewarding inside of this position and putting the nice to haves to the side. And then phase 2 is identifying the onboarding and hiring team. Oftentimes this is where it gets a little clunky for organizations if this isn't specified already in job descriptions. So when you've got a small team of people that are kind of wearing lots of hats, it can be trickier to know who's actually the hiring team captain. We really recommend having someone be the hiring team captain. So that's the person that's kind of organizing the whole thing. And then the degree of impact of everybody else that will be on that hiring team as well. So it could be those 3 to 5 people that you sent the assessment to. It could be people in HR. It could be hiring managers, whatever's right for your organization, but really identifying who those people are and what roles they'll have and what input they'll have. And that goes as well for the onboarding process. Is it the manager that's going to be giving the read back? Is it someone from HR that's going to be giving a read back to the manager and the new hire? So those should be set out at the beginning. Third phase is to socialize what you've produced and ask for feedback. So this is where we get into the head, the heart, and the briefcase again, right? Really looking at what information have we got? What have we produced here? Let's get some feedback. What does everybody think about this? Or however you want to structure getting that feedback. Phase 4 is to build your candidate requirements. Again, coming back to head, heart, and briefcase to really get, this is where you can get granular about what it is, end of day, absolutely that we have to have for this. And then gather and incorporate feedback on the behavioral requirements that you've created. This is a really fun document. There's a bonus document that comes with it that's called the job description checklist. This actually gives you a checklist to go through all of these items, both the PI and outside of that. I find it to be incredibly helpful, and everyone that's on the call today, who registered on the call today, will be getting both of these. They will be made available soon out on our website on a client resource page, along with a webinar that goes along with them. So that's today. That's all the resources that we have for how to use PI and the job assessment in your hiring process. There's a lot of really rich information here. I'll start at the bottom here. The document resources that we covered today are interview recommendations, and that's the name of it out on Catalyst. So if you have access to your PI system, you can simply go in. The purple box from your home screen, you'll see it there. It says Catalyst. You can click on that. In the top search bar, you can simply type in interview recommendations, and that document will come up. Same with all of these others. The Dash hiring method, that's a 5-page document with really great resources. I highly recommend printing that out, working with it. The STAR behavioral interviewing, that's how you can create those 3-part behavioral interviewing questions. If you have newer hiring managers or just people, it's a nice system for people who love systems. And then we also had how to attract candidates with your job ad. Those are the suggestions based on the behavioral requirements that you created in the job assessment. And then the final resource that we touched on today was the Bulletproof System for Better Jobs, the ebook by PI, and that bonus checklist. Those will be out on our website soon. We don't have a drop date for that quite yet, but again, as I mentioned, you'll get those today. Anyone listening on a recording, feel free to reach out to us and request those be sent to you as well. People resources. For web training, you can always give me a call. We can go over things on the website. And you have the whole team here as well. So you can rely on your consultant for help in establishing these processes and procedures for you and your organization. So if you get in and look at the interview recommendations and start working with that Dash method, you can give us a call and we can help you customize it for what's right for you and your organization. We're always here to help you create those job assessments as well. If you're in the beginning stages of learning how to create job assessments, I highly recommend leveraging us to help you with those. And then training resources, our next Lunch and Learn is October 26th. In addition to that, we have an upcoming Becoming a PI Practitioner. That's the full 2-day in-depth training. It's an open workshop in Westwood, Massachusetts on November 6th and 7th. Let me know if you're interested in that. Some of the tools today that we covered are in a modularized session called Attracting and Selecting Top Performers. We can bring that into you guys if that's something that you would like to work on with your HR teams. It's a either full or half-day session depending on if you've had training prior to, but definitely reach out to me or your consultant about that if you're interested. And then we have recorded webinars available to you anytime out on our website under the resources page. These monthly sessions are out there. We also put other created ones by PI that are useful and helpful as well. So that's all of your resources. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now for questions.